Petroleum Portal by Richard L. Elsliger. That was a fun movie, said Amber. Yeah, not bad, but it could have had more action, less talk, I said. Well, the action comes later, she said. Oh, it does it? I can hardly wait, I said. I squeezed the throttle tighter, and my two-seater complied at the insistent demand for speed. The gas gauge read on the low end, while gas prices read on the high end. Running the gas too low was a bad idea and led to expensive repairs down the road. I knew that, but always I tempted the fates. We drove another quarter mile. A gas station came up in my field of view far down the road, judging by its multicolored lights. My high beams cut through the night, and I took aim for some petroleum refreshment. We need to get gas, I said. Snack time, said Amber. Junk food, you mean? The best kind, she said. We came up on the station fast, and I turned in. The colorful array of neon lights danced on the Orion blue paint of my Mercedes SLK convertible. I pulled up to a set of pumps and shut off the grumbling supercharged engine, silencing the throaty custom exhaust. Anything you need in there? I asked. Chips of any flavor and a bottle of water, she said. Oh, not too environmentally friendly, are we now? I said. I'll save the plastic bottle, she said. I'll use it to grow some plants. Good idea, I said. I stepped away from the car and walked to the station store with my billfold. I preferred to pay in cash, an old-school philosophy passed on to me from dear old Dad. A chill blast of refrigerated air slapped me in the face upon opening the door. You keepin' cold in here, I said. Arctic cold, said the cashier, dressed in a sweater. I handed him a $100 bill, and he activated the pump. When I turned away from the counter, the whole station floor spontaneously vibrated. The store shelves shook in a tremulous way, and bags of chips and popcorn somersaulted to the floor. I stopped in my tracks. What the hell is that? I asked, already knowing the answer, having lived in Southern California for some time, but I wanted confirmation. If I had to guess, probably an earthquake, he said in a voice that seemed to mock me. The two of us stood immobilized. I adjusted my eyes to the outside pump to see Amber in my car, rocking side to side. The Mercedes rocked with violence, and Amber unclasped her safety belt, standing straight up in her seat. She attempted to balance herself with outstretched arms at the erratic shifting of my Mercedes. She teetered at the edge of falling out. My mind momentarily cringed at the thought of her high heels digging into that fine European leather, but I summarily dismissed the idea. We were in the midst of an earthquake, a big one, and survival took precedence over material goods. Take cover, said the cashier. I rushed to the exit and froze. The concrete beneath my Mercedes formed a massive fissure, then cracked and buckled in several places. The front end nosed down a good 45 degrees, and Amber fell into the driver's seat, disappearing beneath the windshield. I kicked open the exit door and began to run to the pump. The ground quaked and crumbled beneath my feet before I could get past the parking pylons by the entrance. A fault line advanced in the pavement like a bolt of lightning and ran straight to my feet, threatening to open up and swallow me whole. I jumped backward and watched the earth split around Amber, devouring chunks of concrete. In a nanosecond, the island of pumps next to Amber sunk into the ground and disappeared. The overhead canopy above the Mercedes swayed side to side like a venomous snake, preparing to strike when we were hit by another eruption of shaking. Amber and the Mercedes slipped out of sight, consumed by the unstable, rippling concrete. The tremors subsided and left aftershocks. I took 3 steps forward when again several ground shakes pummeled the station, Mother Nature casting a dire warning that I proceed no further. The canopy that sheltered Amber at the pump threatened collapse at the tectonic pounding. Only the sturdy metal posts anchored to the concrete maintained its upright position over the buckled area when I last saw Amber and the Mercedes. I watched the ground swell and subside in waves of rippling concrete. The assault of tectonic decibels bombarded my ears, and I covered them up with shaky hands. I'd experienced earthquakes living in Southern California, but none like this one. This quake transmitted ominous sensations within me that I could not describe. The concrete continued to buckle and split, opening fissures from the depths of places unknown. Seismic waves battered us unabated, and from their wake, I witnessed a series of moss-encrusted gravestones shoot up from the cracks. They welled up from the ground, dozens of them, rising to the surface like ancient crystalline structures that had been buried for millennia. They displayed long-forgotten names and dead memories erased by time. I stood at the entrance door, dumbstruck by the calamity of horror paraded before me. The abomination of these gravestones materializing at a gas station taxed all of my senses and stretched the limits of my human understanding and logic. I had to save Amber. I mustered all of my courage and sprinted across the lot to the last spot where I left Amber and the Mercedes. I skidded over concrete marbles and slid to a stop at the massive jagged hole that had swallowed my girlfriend. I stood at the edge and hesitated, fearful to draw any nearer to the hole, unsure whether it might crumble. The tremors subsided and I took several infantile steps closer to see down the pit. The foulest stench of nauseous gases rushed up at me, the odor of sewage, or was it sulfur? I peered into the pit, a vile bottomless hole from the depths of Hades, and there I saw Amber and the SLK illuminated by the overhead canopy lights shining down at her. The Mercedes balanced upon a ledge of rock a good 50 feet below. I scanned the lot and observed the carnage, unable to make sense of all the jutting gravestones, omnipresent reminders of human frailty and the shortness of life. The names of long-dead people stared at me, and I sensed their ghostly presence, which caressed my very essence of being. They seemed to call to me with unfulfilled demands and desires never satisfied in life. I ignored the sensations and cast aside their attempts to permeate my mind and derail my attempts at rescue. Amber! She looked up to me, her raven tresses matted and her emerald green eyes half open, glazed over. A massive cut carved its indelible presence across her face, and a trickle of blood seeped from the corner of her mouth. Gasoline from the underground storage tank had leaked into the Mercedes, soaking Amber and the interior, its powerful odor penetrating my nostrils. I witnessed the ruptured underground storage tank continuing to spill its gas at a visible and alarming rate. Amber, I'm going to get you out of there. Just stay with me. Help is on the way. I removed my phone from my shirt pocket and dialed 911. No one answered. I pulled the phone away from my ear and looked at the signal. No bars. I ran to the store and busted open the door. The cashier stared out the window at the tombstones, his face dull, nearly comatose. You have to call emergency, I demanded. I can't get a signal. The cashier ignored me, fixated on the collapsed pumps and jutting headstones. I went around the side and entered his space behind the register and pulled him by the shoulder. He spun around and stared at me, eyes rolled up into his head and drool trickling from his mouth. You can't help her now, he said in a deep, satanic voice. I took 2 steps back and gasped. The tone of that voice was not of this realm. He turned away from me and resumed his obsessive watch out the window. I ran outside the store to the road. I checked up and down the 2-lane blacktop for cars and waited. No headlights approached in either direction. I spent a good minute with the expectation I might flag down a passing motorist and get him to make the emergency call I so desperately needed to save Amber. I was losing valuable time. I raced back toward the pit. Amber, Amber, I'm going to get you out of there, don't worry. She stared up to me, semi-conscious. She put her forearm across her forehead and groaned. Hurry, she said in a diminished voice. An ungodly smell of rot flourished in that pit in addition to the odor of petroleum, and it unnerved me. I choked on the rancid smell. It reeked of death and attacked all form of olfactory decency. At once my ears detected the faintest hum filling the night air, diverting my attention from my girlfriend to assess a new and potentially more insidious threat. The tombstones looked ridiculous and out of place at a modern gas station, so ridiculous that I entertained the possibility that I'd somehow been inserted into some Faustian nightmare from which I would awake at any moment, safe in my bed, with Amber at my side. The steady din of sound grew in volume and disabused me of such implausible fancy. A series of shrieks rose up from the hideous gravestones, and lamentable howls swirled from the netherworld, filling the warm night air. A literal shiver went up my spine. Spirits churned about the night, evil phantasms rising from their presumptive tombstones, hazy electric blue energy fields illuminating the dark sky. The gravestones quaked and crumbled to dust, and cement shattered, pieces buckling upward from these archaic burial spots, skeletonized hands pushing aside chunks of the disintegrating gas station lot. This could not be happening. Stay calm, Amber, I shouted to her, unable to keep my own sanity. What's happening? She asked in a weakened voice. "You're going to be okay," I said. Skulls poked through the concrete rubble, vacuous eye sockets filled in with eternal blackness. Their collective heads turned to me. They emerged with alacrity, an army of death imposed with a mission to destroy anything living. I could reach no other conclusion. The fools had built this station over an old burial site and left the bodies to rot in place. No doubt some of the corpses finding their way into the underground storage tanks, floating in huge vats of gasoline, their atomic structures pouring into cars at every fill-up. These deathly emissaries assembled in military formation. I stared with fascination how it came to be that piles of bones with no connective tissue, no musculature could hold together and move in synchronicity. They came for me. They rattled their bony fists at the night sky, furious, I could only surmise, at the injustice of placing a gas station over their resting place. In the alternative, other factors were at play well beyond the scope of my understanding. Why now? Why us? Having no time to ponder such inexplicable theories to which I might never have answers, I needed to take action. I ignored them and peered down into the cavernous pit that imprisoned Amber. Again, the foul stench welled up at me, but this time I detected movement beyond the Mercedes. A swarm of flying creatures gyrated deep down below the level of the Mercedes, the overhead canopy lights displaying their miniature bat wings and twisted gargoyle faces. They flew in circles, thousands of them, ascending upward to our world. In a flash, they reached the Mercedes and Amber. The horrid creatures pulled on the doors of the roadster, tearing them away. The flooded gasoline from the storage tanks spilled out of the Mercedes and streamed into the pit. The demons mobbed Amber and tore at her eyes. Like locusts, they enveloped her. She screamed in agony, and not a damn thing could I do to stop the onslaught. "Help me," she gasped. "Help!" Those would be her last words. The demons lifted her away and pulled her down to the black depths below, to where I knew not. My poor Amber vanished from the artificial lights and was gone. I returned my gaze to the advancing skeletons. They encircled me, tightening the noose of their attack, leaving me no place to retreat. I looked once more into the pit and took a massive leap, landing in my Mercedes. I heard a snap in my left leg. The blinding pain flared through me, and I saw stars, distracting me from my purpose, but only for a moment. Two of the wretched skeletons landed upon me and pulled at my hair and grabbed at my neck. I kicked one of them to the depths below, but more piled on, filling the little roadster with flailing bones. I shoved the cigarette lighter into its holder and waited for them. Skeletons rained down upon me, the clank of bones slamming together with chattery teeth biting at my face. Others missed the mark and plunged into darkness. The lighter popped, and I pulled it from the socket. The heavy pall of gas vapors from the ruptured underground storage tank ignited in a fiery inferno, enveloping me in flames. I heard a massive explosion that dislodged my Mercedes into freefall, me with it. The flames licked at me and burned my flesh and charred my bony attackers, sending us like a fiery meteor to the depths below. In my last moments I smiled. I will always love my Amber, no matter what, no matter where.